Homeless man attacks Denzel Washington. Can you give me $1? Denzel Washington's response is shocking. The rain had been falling in sheets all afternoon, turning the cracked sidewalks of downtown Los Angeles into gleaming mirrors reflecting the pale orange streetlights. Steam curled up from the storm drains, mixing with the faint scent of gasoline and wet concrete. It was nearly midnight, and the streets were quiet except for the occasional hiss of car tires gliding over the slick asphalt. Denzel Washington pulled the brim of his cap lower, tugging his overcoat tighter around him as he stepped out of the black SUV idling at the curb. Andre, his driver and longtime friend, stayed behind the wheel, the rhythmic thrum of the windshield wipers filling the silence. Before we get into the story, comment below where you are watching from today. If you like this story, don't forget to subscribe. You sure about going in there yourself? Andre asked, leaning slightly out the window. His tone carried a hint of concern. Denzel's lips curled into the faintest of smiles. It's just coffee, Dre. I'll be 2 minutes. Andre didn't argue further, but his eyes followed Denzel warily as he crossed the street toward a small all-night cafe glowing faintly in the gloom. Denzel's boots splashed lightly in the puddles. Despite his understated appearance, there was something about the way he moved calm, unhurried, that drew a few glances from passers-by sheltering under the awning. But most eyes shifted back to their glowing phone screens, indifferent to the man walking alone in the rain. Halfway to the cafe, a shadow detached itself from the brick wall of a shuttered store. Hey, yo! Denzel didn't break his stride at first. The voice was sharp, slightly slurred, and edged with aggression. He caught movement out of the corner of his eye, a man stumbling toward him. Hey man, I'm talking to you. Denzel stopped. The man was thin, clothes hanging off him in damp rags. A filthy hoodie was pulled over matted hair, his eyes wild and bloodshot, darting like an animal's. He smelled of sour alcohol and rainwater. Can you give me $1? The man demanded, voice cracking. His hand shot out, palm up. Denzel studied him in silence. The man's face was pale under the yellow glow of the streetlight, his jaw twitching as though he was fighting an unseen enemy. You hear me? The man barked, stepping closer, spittle flying from his lips. Can you give me $1 and $1? Denzel's gaze didn't falter. $1? He repeated calmly. The man's lips curled into a snarl. Don't play with me, old man. You got money. I can see it. I just need a damn dollar. A few feet away, 2 teenagers paused under the cafe's awning, phones out. One of them began recording. You got a problem? The man snapped, jabbing a finger at Denzel's chest. You think you better than me? Huh? Gimme a damn dollar or what? The words were soft, barely audible over the rain, but they stopped the man mid-sentence. Denzel's eyes were steady, unblinking. The man's breath came in sharp, uneven gasps. His shoulders heaved under the soaked hoodie. You don't want to do this, Denzel said quietly. For a moment, the man faltered. His hand twitched at his side. But then his jaw tightened again and he spat on the ground. You don't know what it's like out here. I'm hungry, man. You don't know. I know enough, Denzel replied evenly. Something about the calmness in his tone made the man's rage sputter like a dying flame. Then Denzel did something unexpected. He reached slowly into his coat pocket. The man's eyes followed his hand greedily. Yeah, that's right. Gimme the cash, man. Don't be stingy. But when Denzel pulled his hand back out, it wasn't just $1. It was a thick stack of crisp $100 bills, bound together with a rubber band. Rain dripped onto the edges, darkening them slightly. The man's jaw dropped. Denzel crouched low, placing the stack gently on the wet sidewalk between them. There's $10,000 right there, Denzel said, his voice still calm, almost conversational. The man's eyes went wide. His fingers twitched. He lunged forward, but Denzel's foot slid forward, blocking his path. You want the money? Denzel said, his tone harder now. Fine. But there's a catch. The man froze, blinking up at him. If you pick it up, you're agreeing to walk into that rehab center across the street. Right now. No questions. No running. You get in that van and go with them. You do the work. You stay clean. A hush fell over the small crowd that had gathered. The only sound was the rain pattering against the concrete and the occasional distant rumble of thunder. The man looked from the cash to Denzel, his breathing ragged. "You serious?" he asked hoarsely. Denzel didn't move. Dead serious. At that moment, a black SUV glided silently to the curb. The back door opened, and a woman in a smart coat stepped out, holding an umbrella. Her face was kind but firm. "Marcus," she called softly. The man jerked his head toward her. "Marcus Johnson, you know who I am," the woman continued. "We've been waiting for you. You can end this tonight." Marcus's lips trembled. His eyes darted back to the stack of bills glistening on the wet pavement. "You don't get it," he whispered. I can't do it." "Yes, you can," Denzel said. "I don't deserve no help," Marcus croaked. "You deserve a chance," Denzel said firmly. "Pick up the money and take the chance. Or walk away and stay in hell." Marcus's knees buckled slightly. The crowd was silent, breathless. "Marcus," the woman said again. "Come with me." The man's lips moved soundlessly. His hands hovered in the air as though reaching for an invisible rope. Then, with a choked sob, Marcus dropped to his knees on the wet concrete. Now let's dive into one of the most shocking moments caught on camera. A moment that changed two lives forever. The rain had been falling in sheets all afternoon, turning the cracked sidewalks of downtown Los Angeles into gleaming mirrors reflecting the pale orange streetlights. Steam curled up from the storm drains, mixing with the faint scent of gasoline and wet concrete. Here is the continuation. The street seemed to hold its breath as Marcus knelt in the rain, his thin frame trembling violently. The stack of cash sat between him and Denzel like a shimmering beacon, each bill soaked and sticking together slightly as water trickled across the rubber band holding them tight. Marcus's eyes darted between the money, Denzel's steady gaze, and the black SUV idling at the curb. From its open door, the woman, Dr. Olivia Grant, waited with an umbrella shielding her from the rain. Her expression was patient but unyielding, as though she'd seen this scene unfold too many times to count. "You said rehab?" Marcus's voice was hoarse, almost a whisper, his lips quivering. "That's right," Denzel said calmly. "You pick up that stack, and you're walking into that center with Olivia. Tonight. No games.
No excuses."
Marcus's fingers flexed over his knees. The rain plastered his filthy hoodie to his skin, making his shivers more pronounced. His eyes flicked back to the crowd gathering on the sidewalk. More phones were out now, cameras pointed at him, their tiny red lights blinking like eyes in the darkness. "Why you doing this?" Marcus croaked. "You don't even know me, man. You don't know what I've done." Denzel's voice softened. "You're right. I don't know everything about you, but I know enough to see you're tired of living like this." Marcus's lips twitched as if he wanted to speak, but no sound came out. The woman across the street called out again. "Marcus, please, I've been here before. I know the fear. You don't have to stay in it." Marcus shook his head violently, water spraying from his matted hair. "They tried before. I tried before. It don't stick. It never sticks." Denzel crouched lower, his eyes level with Marcus's. "You ever have someone bet on you before? I'm betting on you. Right now. 10,000 says you can make it, but you have to choose it." For a moment it seemed like Marcus would spring up and grab the cash. His hand shot out halfway, fingers trembling. But he froze. "What if I fail again?" Marcus whispered. "Then you get back up," Denzel said simply. "Failure doesn't mean you stay down. It means you keep moving." Marcus's breathing became uneven, raspy. Behind him, a man in the crowd muttered, "Take the money and run, fool." Denzel's eyes flicked up sharply at the speaker. The man shifted uncomfortably and fell silent. "Marcus," Denzel said again, "you can walk away right now. Nobody will stop you. But if you do, you and I both know where that ends. You don't need me to say it." Marcus's lip curled as though to argue, but then it quivered. and he pressed a filthy hand over his face. "Why do you even care?" he demanded, his voice breaking. "Because someone once cared enough to pull me off a road I didn't see was killing me," Denzel replied without hesitation. The weight of his words seemed to strike Marcus like a blow. "You," Marcus rasped, "you don't look like you ever been where I been." Denzel held his gaze. Looks can lie. The silence between them was thick, punctuated only by the hiss of passing cars and the steady drumming of rain. "Marcus," Olivia called softly again. "Please, just take the first step. That's all I'm asking. Get in the car." Marcus lowered his hand, and for the first time, the crowd could see tears streaking down his dirt-smeared cheeks, mingling with the rain. "I don't deserve this," he whispered. Denzel's voice was calm but firm. "You deserve a chance. That's all this is. A chance." A sob escaped Marcus's throat. He collapsed forward onto his knees, his head bowed so low his forehead nearly touched the wet concrete. His shoulders shook violently as he cried, the sound raw and unrestrained. Denzel didn't move. He let the man cry. Finally, Marcus lifted his head. His voice was barely audible. "Okay. Okay what?" Denzel asked. Marcus swallowed hard. "Okay, I'll go." "Say it louder," Denzel said gently but firmly. "I'll go." Marcus yelled through the rain, his voice cracking. Olivia let out a sigh of relief. She gestured to the driver of the SUV, and the rear door opened wider. "Let's get you out of the rain," she said. Marcus's legs wobbled as he tried to stand. Denzel offered his hand. For a moment, Marcus stared at it, his lips trembling. Then, hesitantly, he placed his filthy, shaking hand in Denzel's. The crowd erupted into spontaneous applause. "Go with her," Denzel said quietly, "and don't look back." Marcus nodded, eyes fixed on the ground as Olivia approached, wrapping her arm gently around his shoulders and guiding him to the waiting SUV. As the door shut behind Marcus, the vehicle pulled smoothly away, disappearing into the rainy night. Andre stepped out from behind the wheel of Denzel's SUV and joined him on the sidewalk. "You think he's really gonna make it?" Andre asked. Denzel's eyes didn't leave the spot where Marcus had been kneeling. "That's up to him now," he said. "But I'm betting he will." Andre nodded, then glanced at the soaked stack of cash still lying on the ground. "What about the money?" Denzel bent down, picked it up, and slid it back into his coat pocket. "It was never about the money," Denzel murmured. A distant roll of thunder echoed across the city as he turned back toward the SUV. The crowd slowly dispersed, whispers trailing in their wake. But for one man, the man they'd all thought was lost, this night would mark the beginning of a fight for his life. And for Denzel Washington, it was just another reminder that sometimes the simplest act of kindness could change the course of a human soul. The rain came harder now, drumming against the windshield of the black SUV as it carried Marcus away from the street where his life had teetered on the edge. Inside the car, the silence was deafening. Marcus sat rigidly in the back seat, his wet clothes clinging to him like a second skin, shivering not just from the cold but from the weight of what had just happened. Dr. Olivia Grant sat across from him, her calm eyes studying his trembling hands. She had seen this look before, the look of a man balancing between fight and flight. "You're doing the right thing," she said softly, breaking the silence. Marcus glanced at her, his lips pressing into a thin line. His face was pale and drawn, eyes glassy. "I don't even know you," he muttered. "You don't have to," Olivia replied. "You just have to trust the process for now. 1 hour at a time." Marcus looked down at his hands. His nails were cracked and dirty, his knuckles scraped from God knows how many nights fighting on the streets. His mind raced, an internal battle raging so loud he thought his head might split open. "This ain't gonna work," he said finally, shaking his head. "I've been to programs. I've been to jail. I've been to hell and back. You don't know what it's like when you can't stop." "I do," Olivia said firmly. That made Marcus pause. She leaned slightly forward, her voice still gentle but tinged with steel. "I know what it's like to lie in an alley, praying for the next high. I know what it's like to disappoint everyone who ever believed in you, to wake up and wish you hadn't. And I know what it's like to climb out of that darkness one painful step at a time. Marcus stared at her in silence. He wanted to believe her, but a deep, gnawing fear kept his walls high. Why'd he do it? Marcus finally asked. Why'd that guy care? He don't even know me. Could have robbed him. Could have hurt him. Why'd he even bother? Olivia gave a faint smile. Maybe because someone once bothered to care about him. Maybe he knows what it's like to feel forgotten. Marcus leaned back against the seat and closed his eyes. He could still see Denzel's face, calm but unyielding. You don't want to die on these streets. The words echoed in his head, over and over, louder than the sound of rain pelting the car. Meanwhile, back on the corner, Denzel and Andre remained standing beneath the awning of the cafe. The rainwater pooled around their boots, reflecting the neon glow of the coffee shop sign. You really think he's gonna follow through? Andre asked, his voice low. That's not my call to make, Denzel said. His eyes stayed fixed on the wet street, as though still watching Marcus disappear into the darkness. I put the choice in his hands. Now it's up to him. Andre shook his head slowly. You always got some plan. You didn't even flinch when that dude shoved you. Most people would have swung back or called the cops. Denzel's lips curved faintly. You don't fight brokenness with more brokenness. I saw something in him, a spark. And sometimes all it takes is one person believing that spark isn't gone. Andre gave a small laugh. You're something else, D. But Denzel's eyes betrayed no amusement. He was thinking about the road ahead, about the uphill battle Marcus was about to face. He had seen too many people fall back into the cycle, too many lives snuffed out before they ever got a chance to begin again. At Serenity Recovery Center, the SUV pulled through tall iron gates and stopped in front of a sprawling brick building, its windows glowing warmly against the storm. This is it, Olivia said softly. Marcus hesitated as the door opened. The scent of rain and wet earth filled his nostrils. His legs felt heavy, as though made of lead. I don't know if I can do this, he said, barely audible. You don't have to know, Olivia replied. You just have to try. Marcus stared at her, his breathing shallow. Why do you care? He asked. Because someone cared enough to save me once, Olivia said simply. Her words hung in the air like smoke. Come on, she said, extending her hand. Marcus stared at it. He thought about bolting, about running back into the darkness where he knew the rules, even if they were brutal. But then he thought of the stack of cash on the wet pavement, of Denzel's piercing gaze. I'm betting on you. Marcus took Olivia's hand. The first step into the rehab center felt like stepping off a cliff. Inside Serenity, the warmth hit him like a wave. The lobby smelled faintly of fresh coffee and disinfectant. A receptionist offered a kind smile as Olivia guided Marcus toward an intake room. Let's get you settled, she said. Marcus sat stiffly as a young nurse brought in clean clothes, a towel, and a pair of slippers. You can shower and change in here, Olivia said. When you're ready, we'll talk. As she turned to leave, Marcus's voice stopped her. You think I can really change? She turned back, her eyes steady. I know you can, but you have to believe it too. For a moment, Marcus felt the tightness in his chest ease, just a little. When Olivia left, he sat staring at the clean clothes folded neatly on the chair. They looked alien to him, like something belonging to another life. He buried his face in his hands. That night, Marcus lay awake in a small but clean bed. Rain tapped gently on the window. In his mind, he replayed every word Denzel had said. You don't want to die on these streets. For the first time in years, Marcus whispered to himself, maybe I don't. And somewhere deep inside, a flicker of hope, small and fragile, began to burn. The first few days at Serenity Recovery Center were a storm inside Marcus's body and mind. He hadn't known pain like this in years. Not the cold, gnawing ache of withdrawal that sank into his bones. Not the unrelenting nausea and cramps that came in waves. And certainly not the mental torment of craving something he knew would destroy him. The room they'd given him was clean but sparse. the white walls almost too bright for his tired eyes. Every night felt like a battle to keep from clawing at his own skin. His muscles jerked uncontrollably. He'd sweat through his sheets by midnight and shiver until dawn. Marcus hated it. He hated himself even more. On the third night, he stumbled out of bed and staggered toward the window, pressing his forehead against the cool glass. Outside, the world seemed quiet, almost peaceful. "You're a fool," he muttered to himself. "You should have grabbed the money and run." But even as he said it, he knew it wasn't true. If he had taken the cash and bolted, he'd be curled up in an alley by now, a needle in his arm or worse. Marcus slid to the floor, his back against the wall. The next morning, Olivia found him sitting in the corner of the room, knees pulled tightly to his chest. "How are you feeling?" she asked gently. "Like hell," Marcus croaked. "That's normal," Olivia said, pulling a chair across from him. "Withdrawal is a storm. You're in the middle of it right now, but storms pass." Marcus glared at her, his face pale and drawn. "You make it sound easy, like I'm just supposed to sit here and ride it out." "It's not easy," Olivia said evenly. "It's the hardest thing you'll ever do. But you're still here, aren't you? That means something." Marcus let out a bitter laugh. "I'm only here because some rich guy thought he could fix me with 10 grand. Denzel didn't think he could fix you," Olivia corrected. "He gave you a chance to fix yourself." Marcus went silent. "Why'd he even bother?" he asked after a long pause. Olivia leaned forward, her eyes steady. "Maybe because he knows what it's like to feel invisible. Maybe because he sees something in you that you've stopped seeing in yourself." Marcus clenched his jaw. He wanted to argue, to push her away, but her words gnawed at the walls he'd built around his heart. On the 7th day, Marcus almost walked out. He'd been pacing his room, sweat pouring off him, every muscle in his body screaming for relief. He told himself he was done with this place, done with pretending he could be anything other than the man everyone on the street knew him as. But when he reached for the door handle, he froze. In his mind, he saw Denzel's face again. "You don't want to die on these streets." Marcus gritted his teeth, slamming his fist against the wall. "Damn you, Denzel," he growled. And then, to his own shock, he sank to his knees and sobbed. 2 weeks later, Marcus sat in a circle during group therapy. The counselor, a wiry man with kind eyes, nodded to him. "You've been quiet today, Marcus. Want to share what's on your mind?" Marcus hesitated. Every instinct told him to stay silent. But then he remembered Olivia's words. Sometimes it helps just to say it out loud. His voice shook as he began. "I'm tired," Marcus said. "Tired of being angry. Tired of being broke. Tired of being the guy everyone crosses the street to avoid. I didn't think I'd make it this far. Hell, I don't even know why I'm still trying." He paused, his throat tightening. But there was this man. The group listened intently as Marcus told them about the night in the rain. "He didn't owe me nothing. Could have walked away. But he didn't. He looked me in the eye like I mattered. Nobody's done that in a long time." Tears blurred his vision. "And now I keep thinking, if he believed I was worth saving, maybe I am. Like a voice in my head telling me I'm gonna mess up eventually. So why not just do it now?" "That voice is lying," Olivia said firmly. "The itch fades. The voice gets quieter. You have to keep fighting until it does." Marcus nodded slowly. "What if I fall?" he asked. "Then you get back up," Olivia said. Marcus remembered Denzel saying the same words. It felt like they were working in tandem somehow, two forces pushing him toward a life he wasn't sure he deserved. By the 3rd month, Marcus had become a different man. He still had bad days, moments when the cravings came back strong and he'd pace the halls like a caged animal. But he'd also begun to smile again, to laugh with the other residents. He helped newcomers settle in, sharing his story with anyone who needed it. "I thought I was hopeless," he'd tell them. "But hope ain't something you find. It's something you're given, and something you have to hold on to with both hands." On the 91st day, Olivia handed Marcus a folded note. "It's from Denzel," she said. Marcus opened it slowly. The note was written in neat, strong handwriting. Marcus, 3 months ago you stood in the rain and took the first step. You're still standing. That tells me everything I need to know about the man you are. If you're ready, I'd like to offer you a job on my next film. Production assistant. It's hard work, but I believe you're up for it. Hope isn't free, but it's worth everything. Denzel. Marcus stared at the note for a long time, his hands trembling. Not from withdrawal, but from something he hadn't felt in years. Pride. The black SUV cruised along the winding road outside Los Angeles, its tinted windows shielding Marcus from the bright glare of the late afternoon sun. He sat quietly in the back seat, dressed in clean jeans and a collared shirt that felt strange against his skin after months of wearing ragged hoodies and sweat-stained t-shirts. The clothes weren't expensive, but they represented something more than fabric. They were a symbol that he was stepping into a different life. Andre, sitting behind the wheel, glanced at Marcus through the rearview mirror. "You nervous?" he asked casually. Marcus forced a small smile, his hands twisting in his lap. "Nervous ain't even the word, man. Feels like my stomach's doing flips."
Andre tjøkkled.
"You're not the first rookie to feel that way. I've been driving Denzel to sets for years, and I've seen plenty of folks start out like you. Trust me, you'll settle in." Marcus looked out the window at the hills rolling by. He wanted to believe Andre, but his heart was pounding like a drum in his chest. "You really think I deserve this?" he asked quietly. Andre's brow furrowed slightly as he met Marcus's gaze in the mirror. "Denzel doesn't hand out chances to just anyone," Andre said. "If he says you deserve it, then you better believe him." Marcus nodded but didn't speak. Deep down, he still felt the weight of every mistake he'd ever made pressing against his ribs. But there was another feeling too, something unfamiliar, like a flicker of light fighting to grow in the darkness. At the studio lot, the SUV rolled to a stop in front of a massive gate. Security guards waved them through with a respectful nod toward Andre. "Here we are," Andre said as he parked. Marcus stepped out, his sneakers crunching on the gravel. The studio was alive with movement. Crew members hauling equipment, actors rehearsing lines, assistants rushing past with clipboards. Felt like stepping into another world. "Stay close to me," Andre advised. "It's easy to get lost in all this chaos." Marcus followed, his eyes darting around nervously. Every noise seemed amplified, the clang of metal, the bark of instructions over radios, the hum of generators. They rounded a corner and came face to face with Denzel. He was dressed simply in a dark t-shirt and slacks, his expression calm as always. But when he saw Marcus, a warm smile spread across his face. "Marcus," Denzel said, extending his hand. "Glad you made it." Marcus hesitated for a heartbeat, then shook his hand firmly. "Thank you for this, sir," he said, his voice low. Denzel gave a slight shake of his head. "No, sir. Just Denzel." "Yes, Denzel," Marcus said, correcting himself quickly. "You ready to work?" Denzel asked. "I'll give it everything I got," Marcus replied. "That's all I ask," Denzel said. Over the next few hours, Marcus was introduced to the crew. He learned how to coil cables properly, fetch props without disrupting the set, and help set up scenes under the guidance of seasoned production assistants. At first, he fumbled, dropping a light stand, tripping over wires, getting yelled at by an irate assistant director. But instead of exploding or walking off like he might have months ago, Marcus took a deep breath and kept going. "You're doing fine," a fellow assistant named Javier told him during a short break. "We all looked like deer in headlights our first week. You'll get the hang of it." Marcus smiled faintly. "I hope so." Later that evening, as the crew wrapped up for the day, Marcus found himself carrying a box of equipment back to the supply truck. His muscles ached, his shirt was damp with sweat, and his feet felt like they were on fire. But for the first time in years, he felt alive. He turned to see Denzel watching him from across the lot. "You survived your first day," Denzel said with a small grin as he approached. "Barely," Marcus admitted, laughing softly. "You didn't give up. That's what counts," Denzel replied. Marcus nodded. I'm trying to get used to this. It still feels unreal. That's because it is, Denzel said. You've spent so long in survival mode, you forgot what it feels like to build something. This is your chance to start over. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Andre pulled the SUV back around to the lot. Same time tomorrow? Denzel asked Marcus. Yes, Marcus said without hesitation. Good. Keep showing up. That's the secret, Denzel said before heading off. Marcus climbed into the back seat. His body sore but his heart strangely light. Andre glanced at him in the mirror again. You did good today, he said. Marcus smiled faintly. Thanks. I feel different.
Andre nodded knowingly.
That's what happens when you start believing you're worth something. As the SUV pulled away from the studio, Marcus stared out at the city lights flickering in the distance. For the first time in years, he wasn't thinking about where he'd get his next fix, or where he'd sleep that night. He was thinking about tomorrow. And for Marcus Johnson, that was nothing short of a miracle.